So thank you all for being here. It's my hope that this press conference will proceed in two parts. One inside here with all of you, but next there's a march. And that march is being led by a man named Jamal Johnson, someone you know, who previously has found other ways to try to engage in direct action to raise consciousness around gun violence. It's my understanding that Mr. Johnson intends to start a march to Washington, D.C. today. He intends to start it across the street at City Hall. While I am not in a position to march with him all the way to Washington, D.C., I would like to march with him a little way. And I think it's important that we have someone who cares so much about Philly that he's willing to take that walk, because we need help from the feds, and we need help for real from the feds when it comes to gun violence. And I'm honored that he's asked me to take a walk with him. It's my understanding that right now at 11 o'clock, a rally started in relation to that march, that the march itself will start at noon. And it's my intention when I'm done here to go directly over there, where I may say a few words. I don't know. If I'm invited, I will. But at noon, my understanding is the march begins. So if you're wondering why I'm not wearing a suit, why I don't have a tie, why I'm wearing these extremely handsome boots right here, it's because it's a long way to D.C. And we're going to march. Thank you all for being here. This is our usual Monday morning press conference, which we have been doing all year, which we intend to continue to do not only throughout the rest of this year, but hopefully in the years to come while we are here. As always, it takes two parts. The first is a discussion around gun violence that has occurred during the last week, and the second is a discussion of some important work that's going on either outside the office or in the office, or ideally both, for people who are working to prioritize justice and public safety. Today we will be talking about further collaborations with community organizations in order to do more town halls, but a different kind of town hall than we've had recently. This will be a town hall that is specifically for the age group most likely to be involved in gun violence on either end of the gun. So we're talking about conversations with people between 15 and 25 years of age that will be happening over the next few weeks. Where does this idea come from? It comes from the other town halls, honestly. It comes from people standing up at the town halls and saying, we're all talking to ourselves. People in their 40s and 50s and 60s. We're all talking to ourselves. We're not talking to the people who need to be reached. We're not talking to the people who can give us the most interesting information, the best ideas. So that will be the topic that we're going to discuss after we talk about gun violence over the last week. I want to acknowledge some of the people who are here today, and I also want you to know that they're here so that if you have questions for them when we come to question and answer time, you'll know who you can direct them to. We have First Assistant Robert Listenby with us. We also have ADA Chesley Lightsey, who's the chief of our Homicide and Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, and she will have whatever information you might want in relation to particular gun violence cases. We have Felicia Pendleton, who is the operations manager of the NOMO Foundation. Felicia Pendleton has also worked, because of her personal history, and I won't reveal that for her, that's up to her, but she has worked with victims and survivors in various capacities and done some wonderful work there as well. We have with us Reverend Buddy Osborne, founder and senior pastor of Rock Ministries. Rock Ministries is a church that is located at the epicenter of some of the city's greatest challenges in the Kensington area. And he has with him someone he has known and mentored for 20 years, and that is Johnny Rivera. Johnny Rivera coaches boxing at Rock Ministries. He is a mentor to young people at Rock Ministries, and boxing is part of what they do with the youth in that area. He is also with 542, which is the local of the operating engineers. And he has been in that church since he was 16 years of age. He's now 36 years. He is a living example of the value of mentoring and what it can do. All right, first of all, in terms of our statistics on gun violence, year to date, we have 324 homicides. On this date last year, there were 259. This is an increase by about 25%. Obviously, last year's levels were terrible. This is also terrible. But when we look closely, there is a small indication of something encouraging. And that is that only a few weeks ago, the increase was about 38%. The increase now is closer to 25%. And when we look specifically at how many homicides there were last week, the number is 3 homicides. This is a couple of weeks in a row when we've seen a fairly low number of homicides. Do I know why? No. I don't know why. I can't tell you that. I would be lying to you if I said I knew why. Does it have significance? Probably not. It's only 2 weeks. Significance is something we can start talking about in a serious way after a couple of months. But it is encouraging, and we should be encouraged by it. Just by way of comparison, the average number of homicides per day in Philadelphia during the period of the pandemic, starting in March of last year, was about 1.5. The average number of homicides just before the pandemic was about 1. And we are still close to that average of about 1.5. But what that means is in a 7-day period, you would expect to see 7 times 1.5, which is 10.5 homicides on average. And what we saw last week was 3. And what we saw the week before was 3. So that is a little bit encouraging. We should not read too much into it, but it is a little bit encouraging. During the week of July the 31st through the August 6th, yes, there were 3 homicides. There were also 22 non-fatal shootings. During that week, there were 197 gun or gun violence incidents. 100 arrests were made by law enforcement. Of those 100 arrests, 98 cases were opened and charged by the DA's office, which is fairly typical. You will find that the DA's office brings charges in nearly all of these cases, and when we do not, it's because there is a serious problem with the case, and we do not have probable cause to bring it. This is an office that is committed to ending cash bail because it continues to fail us 2 ways. It continues to fail us in failing to hold people who present a serious danger to the community and who, in my view, should be held pretrial. But it also fails us because it sometimes keeps people who are broke in jail for non-serious cases, and that is a danger. It's a danger during a pandemic. It's a danger at any time, but obviously a much more serious danger during a pandemic to them and to everyone else who comes into contact with anyone going in and out of those facilities. It is not a good use of our resources. I will give you some specific examples of homicides and shootings that occurred during the last week. On Saturday, August the 7th, at about 12:30 a.m., a 19-year-old black male was shot once in the head on the 5900 block of Osage in the 18th Police District. The victim was transported to Penn Presbyterian Hospital, where he was later pronounced. This remains an active investigation. No arrest has been made by PPD, Philadelphia Police, at this time. Anyone with information, please contact the PPD's homicide unit at 215-686-3334. Now, I keep saying these numbers because they are different numbers. They are different numbers for different cases. And so I think it is helpful to the public to know exactly which number to call about which case in the event that they do have information. And please, if you have information, even something you don't think matters, please come forward. We need you to do that. Several hours later, there was a double shooting on Saturday, August the 7th, about 3:15 p.m. at 826 Lex Street in the 16th Police District. A 20-year-old black male was shot 1 time in the groin, once in the buttocks, once in the left leg, and once in the left hand. A 21-year-old black male was shot twice in the right hand. Both victims, once again, were transported to Presbyterian. They were placed in stable condition. This is an active investigation, and the number at Southwest Detectives is 215-686-3183. Later on the same evening of Saturday, August the 7th, at about 8:15 p.m., an 18-year-old black male was shot 1 time in the chest at 43 Unruh Avenue in the 15th Police District. Victim went to Jefferson Frankfurt Hospital and was placed in critical condition. He will be transported to Jefferson Torresdale, where he will be receiving further treatment. I'd like to note that there was a VUFA, there was a gun possession arrest made in this case. The person who possessed the gun, based upon my information, did not use it during the incident, but was involved. And during that involvement, police determined he was in possession of a gun without a permit to carry that gun. ADA Chesley Lightsey will be available to answer questions regarding the shooting incident during the Q&A. There was also a triple shooting. On Sunday, August the 8th at about 10:45 p.m., there was a triple shooting in the 400 block of South 13th Street in the 6th Police District. An approximately 19-year-old black male was shot one time in the left arm. A second male, approximately 19 years old, was shot once in the right buttock, and then an approximately 20-year-old black male was shot once in the right leg. The 19-year-old victims were transported to Jefferson Hospital, and the 20-year-old victim was transported to Presbyterian Hospital. All are in stable condition. Once again, this is an active investigation. It is being pursued by Philadelphia Police's Central Detective Division. The number there is 215-686-3007. I must reiterate that our office prioritizes shooting cases and homicide by shooting cases, that we are really good at getting convictions in these cases, and we are going to hold people accountable who pull the trigger and point a gun at another human being. That's the bottom line. So anyone who is thinking about it, don't. If the police get you, you are going to have a problem with a Philadelphia jury, and you are going to pay the price. Finally, I do want to stress that victims, families, and communities impacted by gun violence can contact our Victim Services and CARES unit for support of many different types at 215-686-8019, and that we are continuing with our Violence Prevention Grant Initiative. Since May of 2021, the DA's office has distributed more than $240,000 in grants to 12 community-based organizations. This is not tax money. This is money that comes from people engaging in criminal activity, generally speaking, from people who are engaging in drug dealing in Philadelphia. We are preparing right now for a fourth round of violence prevention grants next Monday, and we will announce it during our weekly community press conference. We have a lot of great applicants. The word has gotten out. We're starting to get more applications from a wide variety of excellent organizations. It is likely we will be giving out a larger amount in grants during this coming announcement than we have in prior announcements, and we're very excited about that. But we're not quitting. Any 501c3 organization interested in applying for the DAO's Violence Prevention Grant should reach out to the Philadelphia Foundation at the following email: grantmakingservices@philafound, philafound.org. And it is now my pleasure to transition to our other topic for today, and that is that we do in fact value the perspective and insight of community stakeholders, victims, and residents as it relates to gun violence and criminal justice reform. In June and July of 2021, we held 4 community town halls, encouraging community members to bring solutions to the table as we seek to combat gun violence as a public health crisis. We now want to hear from youth and young adults. If we were all in Silicon Valley, they'd be talking about crowdsourcing, about not just using your own brain or the brains of the people you know, but using everybody's brain to solve a problem. It is a technique that's used all the time now, and it's used in engineering, it's used in design, it's used in a lot of ways, and we believe it should be used in trying to deal with this crisis that we face in terms of gun violence, both in Philadelphia and nationally. Therefore, I want to highlight that we will be conducting youth and young adult roundtable discussions on criminal justice reform and gun violence. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll host 3 different interactive roundtable discussions, and they will be at the following locations for people who are ages 15 to 25. And if you're 14, show up anyway. If you're 13, we'll talk to you too. But it will be for that age group. The first is at the NOMO Foundation, 925 North Broad Street, on the lower level. That will be on Thursday, August the 12th, from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. The second one will be on the 18th of August, which is a Wednesday, and that is at Rock Ministries, 2755 Kensington Avenue. That will be from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And the third will be on the 25th of August, which is also a Wednesday, at the Masjidullah, the Center for Excellence, 7401 Limekiln Pike, Once again, that's Wednesday, August the 25th, 2021, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Additionally, our Community Engagement Unit will be hosting its monthly one-stop job and resource hub at the NOMO Foundation on the main level on Thursday, August the 12th, 2021, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Since September of 2019, the One-Stop Job and Resource Hub has connected over 3,500 Philadelphia residents to opportunities and services through One Stop. Some of them came in and got jobs. Some of them came in and got help as victims and survivors. But a lot of them have come in and they have benefited in ways that are not just beneficial to them, but are beneficial to all of us. Because when we take care of victims and survivors, and when we try to help people who are attempting to get away from criminal activity to get where they're trying to go, we are all better off, we are all safer, and we have reduced trauma that is essential to public safety in the future. Over 500 Philadelphia residents have actually obtained jobs through our one-stop program. And some of these are great jobs. These are careers. They are not just minimum wage, short-term jobs. You know, they may be jobs, for example, with SEPTA, that are a career, that lead to a good stream of income, that will lead to a pension, that can define a life in many ways, or at least support a life. And so we hope that anyone who is interested in providing employment, any employers will join us. This month, approximately 30 employers and resource providers will be available to connect residents to opportunities for employment, housing, victim services, and trauma-informed care. Some of those employers, in addition to SEPTA, include Aramark, Brightside Academy, WES, West Horizon, Home Care Associates, and more. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you two people who will make some remarks in relation to our announcements today. The first is Felicia Pendleton, who is the operations manager of the NOMO Foundation. And the second is Reverend Buddy Osborne, the founder and senior pastor of Rock Ministries. I will not get up in between their two comments. I will let them proceed one after the other, Felicia Pendleton first, and then Reverend Buddy Osborne second. But after that, we will be taking questions. And if you want to ask some really good questions, you can ask me really good questions while we're marching, because we'll be marching at noon, and I'm going to have to get out of here to get over there. I hope you all brought some good shoes, but we will be happy to answer them there as well. Ms. Pendleton?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Felicia Pendleton. I know I'm a little short. I don't know if y'all can see me. But I stand in front of you guys, one, to thank the District Attorney's Office for bringing this roundtable to the youth in our program and to the youth throughout the city of Philadelphia, because this is something that's needed. As I mentioned earlier, our youth is missing hope. So when you bring a bunch of youth into the room and you talk to a bunch of youth, you know that they're desensitized to what's going on in our community. And when you have a district attorney that says, you know what, I want to reach out to these youth, I want to speak to them, that gives a glimmer of hope, because a lot of people don't say, well, let me lend a hand to the youth. Let me help them up. Let me see where they're coming from. Let me see their needs. Let me see where we can get to just by asking them some questions, just by them talking in general, because a lot of times our youth mouths are closed and they're just going with the flow, which is being traumatized with the gun violence in our community. Also, I stand before you guys as a victim, a co-victim of gun violence, because my son was murdered in 2016. And I wish these roundtables and a lot of things that's going on in the community now was available to the young person, which was 15 at the time, that murdered my son. I think this would have helped out a whole lot, and it probably would have made a huge difference. It could have saved some lives if these things was available at their present time. But nevertheless, it's never too late to start something. So we're going to figure it out as a community, because it don't take one person, it don't take two people. It takes a community to figure out what needs to be done. And something is being done. I stand before you because at one point in time I felt like nothing was being done. And doing nothing is just like being part of the problem. So if you do anything, if you have anything going on that's going to be effective in any type of way, I don't care if it's a post saying put the guns down, that's something, that's reaching out to somebody. Also, we'll be hosting the one-stop job fair at our facility at No More Foundation, 925 North Broad Street. We welcome everyone to come down because employment is self-sufficiency. Employment keeps guns out of people's hands. Employment keeps people busy. If you have nothing to do all day long and you're thinking about hurting someone, that's what's going to happen. But if you get yourself active and get a job, then things will work out under better circumstances. Thank you.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here this morning, and it's a blessing for me. You know, on one hand, on the other hand, there's great sadness because as a pastor, you're well aware of we have to prepare for funerals, and there's many funerals that we've done for gun victims. And when I heard about this initiative to bring kids between the ages of 15 and 25 together as a roundtable, the greatest thing that we can do in our city is prevention. And when you want to know about prevention, you listen to kids, because kids are bright, they're smart, they're articulate. And you want to find out, like the district attorney said, you know, we're listening to 50, 60-year-old. Don't get me wrong, as you get to that age, you do get a little wisdom, but there's a lot of knowledge in these kids that run the streets. The biggest killers, unfortunately, are kids under the age of 16 years of age. And we're on the block right now for about 19 years at Rock Ministries, and we have seen and heard everything you can imagine. And so for the district attorney to step up to the plate and want to hear from the kids and listen, not only hear from them, but listen to their, what could happen to prevent tragedy, gun violence, the Rock Ministry is 1,000% in. And so I'm just blessed to be here, and I'm honored to be called upon for such a time as this. So thank you.
All right, so I do want to thank Felicia Pendleton for her words. Hope's a thing. You know, as we came to the idea to do this, it was the 50 and 60-year-olds who were saying that we have to talk to the people who are not in the room. They do have a certain wisdom, but they have the wisdom to know, and I'm 60, so I can say this, they have the wisdom to know that we need to hear from those young people. We need to hear what is going on, and I do think that we're going to hear what Felicia Pendleton is talking about. I think we're going to hear about a lack of hope, about people not seeing a future, not believing there is a future. We're going to hear, I think, some of the horrible effects of decades of underfunding education, of systemic racism, of poverty that has been unchecked in certain neighborhoods, in the poorest of the 10 largest cities, and Kensington is one of those neighborhoods, without question. I think we're going to hear a lot of that, but I also think we're going to hear some solutions. We're going to hear things that lead us to the conclusion that those 500 people who have jobs see a future. I hope. All right. We have a few moments for questions. I will have to leave shortly, but as I said, I am more than happy to answer more questions at that rally and while we're marching. It is, in fact, a rally about gun violence. It is a march about gun violence. It is very close to the topic here. Yes, Mensa.
Okay, the
Mr. Stewart? I mean, I have a general sense, but do you want to answer that, Mr. Stewart?
So, the young people who will be at the press conference, I'm sorry, at the roundtable discussions are young people who are connected to those organizations. So NOMO Foundation is a well-known organization in North Philadelphia, but providing services to young people throughout North Philadelphia and throughout the city at large. And so they're identifying young people between that particular age bracket, many who have been vulnerable to gun violence, as well as some who have been in contact with the justice system itself, as well as Rock Ministries for the following week and Masjid Allah for the week after.
How many will be at each?
Roughly 25 to 30 young people.
Can you state your name and spell out?
Yes, G. Lamar Stewart, G, first initial Lamar, last name Stewart.
And your title?
Chief of the Community Engagement Unit.
And what are you guys going to do with what you hear? I'm sorry? What are you going to do with what you hear from these kids?
What are we going to do with what we hear? It depends on what they say. I mean, we're going to take it seriously. We're going to listen to it. We're going to try to figure out if there's something that either our office can do or there's some way that we can push that message in the same way that this office heard a message from the community that was about raising $100 million for prevention. We didn't come up with that. We heard that message coming from community. We thought it was a good message. We pushed it. And we've seen real results in terms of City Council putting forward prevention money in unprecedented ways. We hope that we'll hear some things that stick, that make sense, and we intend to try to push them either within our organization or outside of our organization. Are there any other questions at this time? There being no other questions, I have my boots on. It's time to march. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Mr. Stewart is not only our Chief of Outreach, he is a Philadelphia police officer, and he is also a pastor. He has 3 names and wears 3 hats. All right, thank you so much.